Yeah, so what we're building at Autority is the world's largest automotive ecosystem. Our
Mhm.
idea is that vehicle owners, through our platform and our app, are able not only to stay informed, but to pay and acquire for every service around their vehicle. It's on average, every vehicle owner in Latin America right now spends around $6,500 on their car between, parking, toll roads, taxes. Our main idea is just to centralize and everything and do it through the platform, guaranteeing that customer lifetime value in time.
Welcome to the Rideshare Guy podcast, where you will learn about the rideshare and mobility industry straight from Harry Campbell, who's got over 5 years experience covering the industry and has talked to thousands of drivers. There's no better place to stay up to date, entertained, and educated. So let's dive in.
Juan Proaño is the CEO and co-founder of Autority.io. His diverse background from both the technology and automotive sectors helped him launch the Autority platform, which helps car owners in Latin America to manage their vehicle payments in one place. So Juan, how are you doing today?
Great, Harry. Great to see you here. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, definitely. No, I think Jack Greco connected us, who's been on my other angel investing podcast, Wannabe Angels. And I think what stood out to me is that you are a kind of a cool company that honestly I didn't really understand. And you're operating in LATAM, and I think that might have something to do with it. So I'm excited because it sounds like you guys are doing well, you're growing, and you have a lot of traction. I'm excited to dig in. How does that sound?
Yeah, sounds good. I think that the best way to tell you what we do in Authority is to tell you the story on how actually the idea came up to mind to us.
Hmm.
So with us being involved in the automotive space, one day we were in the pandemic, and I was looking at my spam folder in my inbox,
Hmm.
and I found a speeding ticket, that was issued 10 months ago. And somehow I was just sitting there. It was the only notification I got. So I actually tried to pay it in the institution's website. I went into the website. It wasn't
Hmm.
working. The gateway wasn't working. So basically, I had to go to the bank and made a 45-minute line. And then
Yeah.
when I approached the teller, I told her I want to pay with a credit card. They wouldn't accept it. So I had to go to the ATM, go back, take out cash, go back and make the 45-minute line again and just pay the traffic ticket. It took me like a half a day.
Wow.
So yeah, that was the
And
moment
this
where I
was
understood
in
that there was a
Ecuador
massive
or
pain
where?
here. Yeah, this was in Ecuador where we were at the moment living with the co-founders.
Got it. And so that problem is what, sort of led to Authority. So what's the quick 60-second pitch on Authority? What do you guys do?
Yeah, so what we're building at Authority is the world's largest automotive ecosystem. Our
Hmm.
idea is that vehicle owners, through our platform and our app, are able not only to stay informed, but to pay and acquire for every service around their vehicle. It's on average, every vehicle owner in Latin America right now spends around $6,500 on their car between, parking, toll roads, taxes,
Per year?
their lending, their finance, yeah, per year. And yeah, our main idea is just to centralize and everything and do it through the platform, guaranteeing that customer lifetime value in time.
Got it. And what can you give us a little background? How many people are using the app? Are they primarily in Ecuador or all over LATAM? What are the sort of numbers and kind of growth that you guys have had look like?
Great. So we launched on 2022
Mm.
last year, around February last year. We're basically 22 months in the air. So far, we have 60,000 users on the app. What was curious here, Harry, that I want to tell you is that in Latin America, it's very common for automotive companies to try to build their own app.
Mm.
If there's a company that owns 3 or 4 parking lots, they want to build their own app. If you
Yeah.
have an insurance company, they've all tried to build their own app. But honestly, they've shown that these apps don't work because the main reason
Yeah.
for app to work is, first of all, it needs to be transactional and you need to use it a lot of times, right?
Yeah.
So it's been a good journey for us because we've approached these companies that have already failed at building their own apps. And
Mm.
we basically, they believe in our project because they're integrated to our platform and they're offering their services to their customers. And that has been our tool for customer acquisition, having these companies that operate and offer their services through a platform, promoting Authority to their customers. So yeah, our growth has been kind of organically. We haven't invested a lot of money in acquisition in acquiring customers. It's been basically on partnerships. And yeah, so 60,000 customers only in Ecuador right now. And
Hmm.
at the moment, Ecuador is a very nice country to do the first launch. A small country for good validations. is a very well related market to other countries in Latin America. So yeah, it's a good country to start. And now we're starting our expansion project to Mexico specifically, which is basically the Spanish-speaking LATAM biggest market.
Got it. How many people live in Ecuador?
So we have 18 million people living in Ecuador, which of them we have around 3 million vehicles. Remember, Autority, even though we're basically focused on cars, we do serve motorcycles, cars, and trucks. Just basically any vehicle that has a license plate. But yeah, that's kind of the ratio. And if we look at Mexico, Mexico has around 50 million vehicles in the street. So it's quite bigger.
Yeah, that is a lot bigger. And how does Ecuador sort of compare? I mean, you might be a little biased, and it sounds like you grew up and you live there, but how does it sort of compare in the eyes of folks that are looking at LATAM? Is it one of the, top or most prosperous countries, or how do people think of it and describe it for those like me who maybe aren't familiar with the LATAM market? I know we hear a lot about Brazil, Argentina, and then I think Mexico is sort of, well known for like a lot of people there, a lot of vehicles. What is Ecuador known for?
Yeah, so Ecuador, we're a kind of a stable economy. Our main currency is the dollar in Ecuador, the US dollar. So that gives kind of like a financial stability for investors. Also, what I say that Ecuador being such a small country, we have an amazing pool of talent. There's an amazing people from Ecuador that actually want to make big things and have a lot of experience in corporate jobs and actually are eager to jump into the startup or ecosystem, right? Yeah. So I think that's good. Also, being in Ecuador, a very small country, you have a lot of diversity in our country. You have people from from the coast, and you have people living in the highlands, and you have people living in the Amazon region. So you have all sorts of customers in a very small area. Let's call it that way. So it's very good to validate different types of customers, users, products, and all that in a very easy and fast way.
Very cool. Yeah. And I'm, my geography has been a while since I took a geography class, but I am pulling up Ecuador on the map. And yeah, it looks like the west side of the country is all coastline. Maybe east side goes into the Amazon, some mountains. But it does stand out to me that it's sort of a smaller country, compared to Peru and Colombia. And of course, Brazil is huge. But yeah, very cool background.
Yeah. I mean, the great thing about it is that being in Ecuador, tomorrow if we want to expand to Colombia maybe or to Peru, our audience is quite similar. That's why I think Latin America is such a big market and big opportunity for tech startups, right? Because expansion is quite easy if you take a look at the profile of the customers or the users you're targeting to.
Got it. So let's talk a little bit about the product now. So you mentioned that you have partnerships, I'm guessing, with parking lots and maybe insurance companies and folks like that. How are your customers, what are the sort of main acquisition channels? Where are they encountering your app? Because it sounds like, they're going to a parking lot, for example, instead of, downloading some random app that you're only going to use once. Now it's, I imagine the pitch is download Autority. You can pay for your parking now, and you can pay for all these other things. So where are you getting your customers from, and which partners, I guess, what partners do you have too?
Yeah. So let me go back to the overview of the product right now. In Autority, the app is 100% free. The customer will download it. They will register their car with their license plate. And immediately they're able to pay or acquire or stay informed for 7 services, right? So we're doing the driver license. We're doing traffic or parking tickets, just anything related to traffic, Then we do the payment, of course, of everything behind the registration of the car. Then we also have a service for home delivery car washes. Customers are also able to pay parking lots. They're able to recharge their toll road accounts, the tag accounts for toll roads, and of course insurance, right? So our customer acquisition journey has been quite good, man, because we acquire customers depending on their needs that they have at that moment. Yeah. For example, in Ecuador, what we've done is we've signed a deal with the Ecuadorian government, and when a customer receives a PDF, just like I received mine and I didn't look for it, you receive a PDF, and at the bottom of it says that you can pay it through Autority. You just click on it, and it will redirect you to download the app. So the great thing about this is that if we acquire a customer through traffic tickets, for example, 93% of our customers are paying or are buying a cross-sell product, meaning that they're paying the registration after that, meaning that they're paying their parking after that. So we truly believe that if we really help our customer in their first transaction, our retention and our customer loyalty in the future is fantastic, because you're actually solving something that would probably have taken them half a day, like it happened to me.
Yeah. Well, and I
And
will
yeah, and
say,
we took. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, no, I will say, having gone, I've never been to Ecuador, but, going to Peru and Mexico many, many times, I feel like one thing I've noticed when I'm down there are a lot of lines for things. Like you mentioned, going into the bank and going, to see a teller, it's like 45 minutes. Like that's kind of outrageous to people in the US. There's a million ATMs everywhere, and you can deposit a check in an ATM. You can see a teller, right? I can deposit a check from my phone now, right? You have all these options for convenience. And I do feel like in LATAM specifically, I don't know what it is, but just my totally uninformed opinion, it seems like there's a lot of lines for things where you don't necessarily need to have a line for, right? Like technology can solve it, or there could be a better process. I don't know if I'm way off base, but it sounds like at least in your one experience, that was the case.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, as I told you before, I think there's the necessity to bring innovation and technology into a space, but I also think it's not the company's priority, or maybe they don't know how to do it. I mean, and since we serve I always say that in Autority, we're tackling a world where it's consumer last priority. Like for example, in Latin America, for a person to pay a traffic ticket is their last priority, even though that little voice is always on your head, it's always on your head, and you need to pay it, you need to pay it. But just people don't do it, because the paying process is quite painful.
Well, I think it's last priority because
it
costs you money, right? You don't want to pay the money because you're not really getting anything out of it. And then number two, it's also a painful process, right? So I imagine, the government probably has a lot of issues with people paying parking tickets because they make it so difficult and they don't want to do it, right?
Exactly. That's the other problem, that the companies behind the services have a huge struggle on collecting funds properly, and that's basically because of two things. As we were talking, is not a customer priority, but also, I mean, this company suck at communication, I mean, they will send you just one invoice that you need to pay your parking ticket, and you will never hear from them again. And the same reality, for example, happens in insurance. If you acquire an insurance policy in Latin America, you probably won't hear about your insurance company for 11 months until you need to renew it. I mean, and you will never use any benefit that you have in your policy. So yeah, what we're trying to build Autority is just basically have that customer well informed and just know whatever he needs to pay, and just make the transaction quite easy with a credit card. And also, an amazing thing that we're doing, Harry, is we're allowing customers to pay these services in installments, something that nobody has done before. So, for example, you quite know well the gig economy. These people basically make an income on a daily basis. Yeah. And if you allow them to pay their registration, which is usually around $350, $400 per year, on 12 installments, you're helping them a lot on their pocket. So yeah, that has been also a huge accomplishment we've done in the platform as well.
Yeah, no, that's actually makes a lot of sense, the installments piece of things. So what are your most popular services? You mentioned paying tickets. Do you have kind of a top two or three, and kind of how that breaks down? What are customers using your app for primarily?
Yeah, if Autority, we have like two KPIs. So one is GMV, right? This is the amount of money going through our platform and paying for services. And in that perspective, registration and traffic tickets is just huge. I mean, on average, for example, in Ecuador, a user will have around 2 speeding tickets or traffic tickets per year. And each traffic ticket is around $130. So yeah, you're looking at almost $300 on the speeding ticket side. And then registration, as I said, is between $250 and $400 per year. So just in those two services, you're looking at around $700 to $800.
Yeah.
And on the transaction side, like on the volume of transactions, parking is also a big volume for us. But there are small transactions. On average, a parking transaction will be around $3. But it's a very nice way of having recurring customers because it's a service you use constantly. Yeah. And another space which is quite usual and fun in authorities is the toll roads. What happens in Latin America is we're in a phase of transforming physical toll roads. It's just like in the US before you have to, you need to pay in cash. Right now we're moving all the way towards the tags, right? And like purchasing a tag and having a balance there.
Yeah.
And yeah, people don't even know how much their balance is. You need to have like 3 different balances depending on the highway you're going through.
Mm-hmm.
So it's quite painful, the user experience. Yeah, so that's a very nice, it's also a very nice vertical for Autority, because we're letting know the customer, hey, your balance is reaching to $2. You can automatically recharge it to us. So we're basically taking care of everything on that customer voice that's always sitting on the back of their head, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So tickets, parking, and toll roads, those sound like sort of your 3 main use cases for the customers of your app.
Yeah, for now, yes. We're getting strong into insurance right now with Authority. As I told you, insurance is a huge space in Latin America. Only 30% of vehicles have a private insurance in
Yeah.
Latin, and we're talking about 200 million vehicles.
Yeah.
So the reason behind this is that we think that the 70% of cars that don't have a private insurance is because of 2 reasons. First of all, there's not a product for everyone. Insurance companies are being very careful, you know. And so if you have a car that's older than 10 years old, they will probably don't insure it, and the price is going to be typically two more times 2x the typical price, right?
Yeah.
So what we say in Autority is that we have a lot of data on our customers. Like we know how the customer drives, how many traffic tickets he has, and besides if he has a lot of traffic tickets, we actually know if he pays them in time. You know, if he pays his taxes and his registration on time. So our idea in the future is try to work with the data that we own and try to build products for this 70% of the market that does not have an insurance right now. And yeah, at some point, Harry, I'll be honest, I would definitely love to have an Autority, an option that if you want to travel during this weekend to the beach, for example, in Ecuador, you can purchase an insurance in Autority for 3, 4, 5 days, and that's it. You know, it's just getting to the UBI space of the insurance side, which is quite comfortable for customers.
Yeah. Okay. This sounds pretty cool because I think when I first thought of your service, I think I may have even seen, or you might have explained that paying a ticket scenario, which in the US, if I get a ticket, parking ticket or speeding ticket, I think we have pretty good systems where you can actually pay that online already. So it is pretty easy to pay. I feel like the one thing the government is good at, I won't get into a whole rant on the government. The one thing the government is great at in the US is collecting money. There's, I grew up in Santa Monica, and there's a joke if you grew up in Santa Monica, like the meter maids in Santa Monica are some of the most savvy people in the world. Like if you leave your car for 30 seconds unattended, you will come back with a ticket. Like they are amazing at ticketing cars. And so do you think like what's most compelling about your service? Do you think it's the individual, hey, you can go and a ticket, we make that process easier, or the parking, right? Like we kind of automate, digitize that. Or do you think it's the combination of all the services, right? Like why do you think this product is and will be so attractive to your customers? Do you think it's like one individual use case and how awesome that is, or it's like that bundle?
Yeah, I definitely think it's 2 things. First of all, is the one-stop shop, right? The bundle and the centralization of all of the services. As we were speaking before, Harry, I mean, the car related payments and services. If you talk to anybody that owns a car, I mean, this is something they don't want to talk about it. I mean, it's very painful and nobody cares. So I think that the good thing about it is the centralization of the service, and second of all, I think it's the convenience. I mean, the people in the world are usually attracted to platforms that give you convenience, that save you time, that save you money. And I think Authority tackles that thing. We always say that our name it's Authority, which is took the H out of authority. And it's because we take care of the hustle that goes behind doing your car management and ownership, right? So yeah, I think it's a combination of 2 on building that loyal community, and yeah, just having what I say also is funny. But Authority has a major benefit that we can extend the customer lifetime value forever. Because if you probably own a parking lot, you're monetizing your customer on one transaction, right? Or if you own a gas station, you're monetizing your customer on that one transaction. What we love about Authority is that if you acquire a customer at one point, he can stay with you forever as long as he has a car, and he will just keep on processing and making the payments in the platform forever.
Got it. So this is a free app to your drivers, your customers. How do you guys make money? Do you take a % from the partners, or do you charge the users directly?
Yeah, so we do both. For public services, like traffic tickets, registration, and all that, we do charge a commission to the customer. for processing the payment, and bring the data to him and the platform.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the private sector, like for insurance or home delivery car washes, we do get a commission from the supplier side.
Got it. Are there any sort of future services that you think, if you're looking out on the horizon, will have a big impact? Like, I guess what comes to mind, especially here in the US, EVs are very popular. I don't know if there's anything you've looked into around EVs and charging. And then I imagine there's some piece of, financing or cash advances for, like, especially if you have a bunch of Uber and Lyft drivers or Uber drivers in your audience, like seeing their work history and then advancing them money, for some of these services based off their work history, which we've seen a lot of in the US. Like, what do you think are the biggest and kind of most exciting future offerings that you could do?
Yeah, so you already mentioned it. So it's two, right? One is getting into the refueling or recharging space. Latin America is quite behind on the EV space yet. I mean, I still think we have some years to go in the future, but in the US, of course, if you're already paying your parking tickets and you're parking in the platform, you might as well be able to pay you recharge your car, right, or pay for gas. So that's the vertical that we're about to launch the first version on gas in Ecuador in the next few weeks. And then, of course,
how would the gas work? Just it lets you. How would the gas part work? It would let you find cheaper stations, or what's the sort of service there?
Yeah, so our approach in gas is we want to give people discounts on gas. That's the best way to penetrate that space, right? And that's the amazing thing about Autority, as I told you. We're the only ones able to offer a discount on gas, because I know that customer that's transacting with me on gas, he will probably pay for his registration and traffic ticket. So our monetization will probably come in the future. And we will give people the benefit of a discount in the service that we basically use every week,
Yeah. So basically you could potentially lose money on gas discounts to your customers, but make it up in other areas.
Yeah, exactly. That's the approach on the customer acquisition side for right now. And the transaction is just amazing. You will, like, Latin America, it's not like the US. We actually have people in the gas stations that are pouring the gas into you. You don't do it yourself, So yeah, there's a lot of fraud in this space, because they probably, they put $20 in your car. You need to give them your credit card. They will take your credit card and they would charge it in a POC, which is quite far. So there's a lot of fraud in that space. They're stealing your credit cards, data, and yeah. So it's a very nice opportunity right at the moment, because with Autority, you will just basically reach the gas station. You will scan a QR code that's right on it. You'll just pay through the app, and then you're done. They will just put it in and you leave. So it's a good experience. And what's better than having a good experience and also have a discount on the gas, which is amazing, that nobody gives it.
Yeah, very cool. And then was there another piece around financing or anything else that you guys are looking at in the future for services?
Yeah, so lending is it's an amazing space. As I told you, we quite have a lot of data. We know basically what car does Juan have, and the year and the mileage and the history of the car. So yeah, I think if we partner and we look at the business potentially, we definitely want to give more opportunities to people. And I always say, Harry, that everyone that owns a vehicle, they're always eager to buy a better one, Everyone that owns a car, even the person that has a Ferrari, they always want a better car, So I think that if we already have a loyal customer base, we can actually offer people in our platform and tell them, hey, Juan, we know your car, you're looking to buy a new car. Here you go. Here's money for you to buy a new car, And yeah, maybe get eventually into the leasing space or even building, as I told you, new products, not only on the lending side, but just giving more opportunity to people to make their lives better, with the new car, which is, it's quite funny. Latin America, this is a nice fact. In Latin America, the biggest assets that people in Latin America own is their car.
Interesting. So let's talk a little bit about the rideshare drivers and Uber, and I guess what's the other big service in Ecuador? Didi, or is there a competitor to Uber?
Yeah, so it's Uber. We used to have Cabify before. They're not in the country anymore. We do have Didi, and there's also a lot called InDriver. I don't know if you heard about
InDrive. Yep. They just launched in Miami, the US. So it sounds like Uber is one of the biggest rideshare players. Have you found that many Uber drivers are using this service, and what's their experience been like?
Yeah, so actually, it's quite funny because I use Uber a lot and I drive a lot with them. And when we talk to them, I mean, they understand the concept. But I wanted to mention the Autority, besides Harry being a platform that's allowing customers to pay for these transactions, we're also an engagement platform. For example, we have the customer location and we have bots in the back that are looking for your location. And if we find an accident or a road closure close to you, the app will also let you know. Which is a very nice engagement platform. For example, also in Latin America, it's very common to have, especially on big cities like Quito, Bogota, and Mexico City, certain days that you cannot drive your car, to reduce traffic. Right. And Autority is also a platform that's letting you know, hey, Juan, remember that today you cannot drive your car, because if you do, you basically get a ticket, So those kinds of notifications have been great for mobility drivers. I mean, there are people that are always on a daily basis, maybe 12 hours on their car. So if you give them this sort of alerts and things for them to be better at their work, I mean, it definitely works. So it's been quite a good acceptance on that space.
Yeah. Well, and I think one of the reasons I was interested to talk to you is because I feel like a lot of times I'll hear about new products or services, and usually rideshare drivers, Uber and Lyft drivers or Cabify, are a great customer for these products, right? Like, hey, they put 1,000 miles a week on their car, so they're going to spend more on insurance or financing. I think actually with your product, I don't know, do you think that it's more compelling for Uber drivers, or it seems like it's pretty compelling to anyone who drives, right? Because if you have a car, you have to do all those things, right? If you're an Uber driver, you might do more. I guess you might get more parking tickets or more speeding tickets, but I think a lot of the value is delivered to basically anyone who owns a car. How do you think about your kind of customer segments?
Yeah, so we've done a very deep job on understanding and knowing our customer, right? And the ideal customer for Autority is that person that works inside the city. For example, let's call San Francisco, right? You probably work inside San Francisco. You need to travel into the city every day, so you're basically putting gas in your car. You're also paying the toll roads, the bridges to go inside San Francisco. You're paying for parking every day, and on a day or two, you probably get a parking ticket, right? So you're an ideal customer. Also, since you're working so much, you probably don't have time to do your registration. So you're an ideal customer on that end. And and the insurance process, acquiring your insurance will probably just come along as you already transacting in the platform. So that's kind of our ideal customer in Autority, that person that's going back and through on the cities, on the big cities. So that's why we love. I mean, eventually, as I told you before, we will eventually love to get into the US. I think cities like San Francisco, cities like New York, or cities like Chicago, where you have a lot of commute, there's a lot of people that might be a good profile for our platform.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a good segue to the last thing I wanted to talk to you about. I mean, you mentioned that you're expanding into LATAM, and I think it obviously makes a lot of sense, geographically close, and then, similar profiles, and, obviously most of the countries in South America, other than Brazil, are Spanish speaking, right? And I guess other than, or most of them. And then, so let's talk though about a little, like, how do you think the product would fare in the United States if and when you decide to launch the product here? You think it would work just as well, better, worse?
Yeah, so it was funny. I was in San Francisco a couple of weeks ago, and being there, I'm always looking for opportunities, and I started to kind of understand, and I took time to go to the San Francisco Municipal Authority. I took time to go to the DMV, and I was quite surprised because I basically saw the same lines that I was seeing in Latin America. Outside the DMV, there was like a block of lines, of people outside.
Yeah.
And after I started to dig deeper on it, it actually occurred to us that it might be a good time in the near future to launch a POC in the United States. And I'll tell you why. Also, Latin America has been quite complicated, also because Autority platform connects to APIs, and there's not a lot of companies in Latin America that already have APIs. I mean, most of them need to build them. Most of them work with third-party suppliers that they need to request them. So it's kind of a hard integration process. We have found our ways, but what I loved about the US is that we were talking to the people in DMV, and the DMV you can request access for their APIs, and you can basically become a third-party, affiliate of them, and you can do the same thing with the San Francisco Municipal Authority, and then you can do the same thing with the Fast Track, which is basically the toll road thing. So the infrastructure on the technology side, it's quite up there in the US, which I think it will be harder, easier for us to integrate the solutions and then eventually launch. The thing we're trying to figure out now is basically the customer acquisition side, which is something we need to figure out. But yeah, I mean, we'll definitely love eventually to launch in the US. I think it's an amazing market,
Yeah.
and I think there's a need for the product.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think I will say, when we first started chatting, I was very focused for some reason on this ticket example that you kept sharing. And I'm like, oh, this doesn't sound as relevant to the US. But now that, I've sort of gotten to learn the product and the service, I mean, I think that, I'm thinking about it right now. I've got a DMV account for me and my wife. We've each have a fast track, toll roads account. We each have, insurance, right? And so I do love the idea of there are, the gas, right? I mean, the charging, I've got an EV, my wife has gas, right? Like there are a lot of payments and accounts and tickets, right? And things that are associated with driving a vehicle. And, it sounds like it's pretty expensive. I was kind of surprised to hear that it's $6,500 on average to have a vehicle in Ecuador. I think it's close to $10,000 on average in the United States when you include everything. But I've never thought about all the different people you have to pay, right? And so I do think that product from like a kind of bundle, I would love the idea of one app for me, my wife and all of our cars, and we could just pay everything in there. Probably easier than said than done, connecting to all the APIs and everything. But, we don't have a lot of bank lines, but yeah, we definitely have a lot of lines at the DMV. We also have a lot of street sweeping. So that's like one huge issue in Los Angeles is remembering like when you have to, kind of move your car or, where you can park. There's some funny memes there. So I think you'd have a lot of cool additional services you could add and kind of like features and products you could add when you come to the US too.
Yeah, I think I mean, like our main objective in Autority is to keep the customer informed. As you said, I
Yeah.
mean, if you need to remember where you need to park, if you want to know where you parked, or if you want to know, I mean, when do you need to pay your registration, it's just amazing if you give people convenience. I think that's the kind of the success of a product when people are basically loving your product and they're just like
Yeah.
you're retaining customers, and yeah, I mean, I think that's why. Authority, I think, has a feet worldwide, and we're definitely looking at the Americas where we kind of know the region. And yeah, hopefully they soon will launch in the US, and of course you'll be the first person to know.
Mhm. Very cool. Well, I'm excited to hear about the progress, and I'm sure when you guys are launching in the US, you can ping me and I'll send you lots of ideas for the app and for the service. So if folks want to learn more about you and Authority, where can they go? Where can they find more?
Yeah, so I'm very reachable on LinkedIn. My LinkedIn is Juan Bernardo Proaño. So Bernardo is my middle name. So in Latin America, everybody has two names, So
Okay.
yeah, that's my name. And you can find us on authority.io, which is our website. And yeah, happy to help, collaborate, or just talk to anybody.
Very cool. All right. We will leave a link to the company website and Juan's LinkedIn. And if you want to learn more, if you're down, who knows, we might have a few listeners down in South America, maybe even Ecuador. They can try out the service and get back to us. So Juan, thank you very much for coming on. Look forward to talking again in the future.
Thank you, Harry. Always a pleasure being here. Congrats on everything you've done.